Alright guys, in this video we're going to do Seattle and New York, the Jets. Before I get started, if you want a copy of the board, just come over to oneweekfantasy.com and there's a link here on the front page to a membership page where you can get more information about that. Also, we have private games on DraftKings, and if you want to join us, you can click on this banner link here and it'll take you over to DraftKings over here where our league is, and we have a weekly challenge where we play each other every week and you're invited to come and play. Obviously, if you are on YouTube, there's links below in the description where you can get you can find everything I just talked about. All right, in this game we're going to talk about Seattle and New York. Seattle's traveling cross country from the West Coast to the East Coast, so we do need to look and see when this game is set to be played. It is an early game. Okay, that for the most part can be a challenge when either coast, East Coast, West Coast, and it's an early game. That can be it's worse when East Coast travels to West Coast, but East Coast to West Coast is a factor. The Vegas sharps do pay attention to that. I just don't think it's just as big of a situation as as traveling East Coast to West Coast, but it is a factor. So is it going to really matter in this game? I don't think so. I think Seattle is good enough that their game travels. When you can play defense, I mean, I just don't think it's going to be that big of a deal against the Jets. However, it is a fact. I just want you to be aware of that. And so Vegas has this as a 40.5 total at the beginning of the week, which is a very low total for a game. And so you have 2 or 3 touchdowns for the Jets, 3 touchdowns for Seattle is about what they're saying here. And Seattle's only slightly favored in this game, and that may have some something to do with the travel, like I was saying, and Russell Wilson and the travel from West Coast to East Coast early game. So let's break this down. You have 2 slow-paced teams, so this is going to be one of those defensive type of games. Both these defenses have top-ranked defenses. Seattle's is ranked 3rd. And New York is ranked 7th, so this could be a very defensive game. You have Seattle, who's Russell Wilson, I think is looking like he might play, but he still is dealing with a high ankle sprain, and that is going to limit his mobility. It's just what it is. It's going to be that way for a few weeks at least, until he starts feeling really healthy. But I mean, at least if he's playing, they have a better shot than having the backup come in and play. You have Christian Michael, who went off last week, but it was a blowout type situation, which we kind of felt like was going to happen. And he had a big week like we thought he could, but I stupidly pivoted off of him in my tournament lineups, and it cost me a lot of money. Yeah, because I had some good lineups. But, whatever. You live and you learn. I shouldn't have done it, but I did. But he had a good game. And you got Thomas Rawls, who's dealing with some injuries, and he's still in the picture, though. So, you have New York. I think that Eric Decker is not going to play this week. That they were saying that's going to mean that Quincy Enunwa, whatever his name is, who's been playing really well. He's been a really good slot receiver. His targets are probably going to go up this week, and they're talking about getting Brandon Marshall more targets and focusing on getting him more involved. So that's what I was reading on Roto World. So we'll keep that in our minds. Let's look at this game and see if there's anything here that we might want to go after. Just from when I was looking at it earlier, there are 1 or 2 players in this that I'm interested in, but mostly you're going to find a lot of tournament type plays. Like, they're risky, they're interesting, but I'm not too big on any of these teams in this game. So let's start with Seattle. Seattle wants to throw the ball. They really have been working on their passing game. In the offseason, they were talking about that they're going to be a high-octane passing attack. Jimmy Graham, I believe, had a good game last week, 100 yards, a lot of catches, 100 yards, and I don't know, I think he might have scored. I'm not sure. But finally, Jimmy Graham has a sighting. He's feeling healthy. He wants to be more involved. They want to get him involved, and I think this could be a spot where we see some more Jimmy Graham this game. Because the Jets, if they have a weakness, it's going to be against the tight end and against the receivers. That's really where the Jets' weaknesses has been in the secondary and in their linebacker play with the tight end. So And on the other side of the ball, I mean, Seattle is just pretty solid across the board, as you can see. So there's nothing really to pick on. It's just when there's really no weakness, then you just have to look at the offense and say, who are the main weapons? And, you know, we don't really know who could have a big game. So basically everybody at best is a tournament option. There's nobody that we can really project to go off or anything. When I was looking at the receiver versus cornerback chart, there really weren't any advantages against Seattle, obviously, because all of the secondary for Seattle is playing well. So there's not really any opportunity there. And on Seattle's side, there wasn't really much opportunity there on that side either. I mean, Darrelle Revis is the one that's playing the worst. But, you know, he's going to be, let's see here, 74% on the left side, which is going to put him going up against Tyler Lockett mostly, which Tyler hasn't been balling himself either this year. So, I mean, there's really not a whole lot to be found in the chart. So basically, it's just a straight up, who do you like? You know, it's I don't think it's a blowout or a shootout. I think this is going to be a pretty close game, considering that they're traveling to New York and it's the time issue, and then Russell Wilson been hobbled. This offense is predicated on the mobility of Russell Wilson, of him making great plays himself, and so yeah, like it's pretty much a straight up pick 'em. I'm not going to spend over a whole lot of time in this video because there's no need to. Let's look at Seattle. Will Russell Wilson be under pressure? Yes, he will be under pressure. And if he is still not right on that leg, he could be sacked a lot in this game. That's because their offensive line is ranked 19th, and the Jets are ranked 5th in pass rush. So he could be under a lot of pressure. On the other side of the ball, Ryan Fitzpatrick, I mean, it should be a pretty good battle, but he should have time to throw the ball. The offensive line is ranked 3rd in the league in protection. As far as the run game for Seattle, actually, the offensive line is horrible. The running has been so-so. It's been okay. For the Jets, they have a great offensive line. They're opening holes. Matt Forte isn't running the way he used to run, but he's still hitting the holes and doing pretty well. So, what that tells me, let's just start with Seattle. There's 2 players I'm interested in. That's Jimmy Graham. That's Doug Baldwin, because Doug Baldwin gets the targets. And Jimmy Graham is becoming a bigger part of that offense. He's talented as a big tight end. He's finally finding his place in that offense, and they're trying to get him the ball now. And he has a great opportunity in the matchup that he's in. So I actually like Jimmy Graham, and I like Doug Baldwin in this matchup. But I wouldn't do a stack with this team. I don't really like Russell Wilson in this game necessarily. So if I was going to do anything, I would just cherry pick Doug Baldwin out the offense. But I like Jimmy Graham the most. I'll say it that way. I like Jimmy Graham the most, so I would play him in my lineups if he's cheap enough on whichever site you're playing on. On the other side of the ball, it's 3 players: Matt Forte, Brandon Marshall, Quincy Enunwa, and basically they're all just tournament plays. I wouldn't play in my cash games; it's too risky. But those are 3 players. I mean, if they're going to score 2 or 3 touchdowns, somebody's got to do something. And it's going to be one of those 3 players. And the problem is we don't know who it's going to be or how it's going to work out, because Seattle's pretty solid across the board. And so that's why it's a really risky proposition. So that's about it, guys. There's nothing else really in this game. I don't see anything else you can get out of this except for maybe Jimmy Graham mostly. And so with that, I'm going to end this video, and I'll see you in the last video where we'll talk about Tennessee and Houston.